There we go. My name is Philip Aldifer. I'm MAPS coach and one of the folks here at Powered by Cloud. I am with the amazing and talented Jason Flynn. Jason, for those who might not know who you are, tell everybody who you are.
Hold on, where are you from though?
Oh, I'm from Anchorage, Alaska.
Yeah, like one, unique. Two, I
Yep.
just think people should know where you're from.
I agree. Thank you for that.
So I'm Jason Flynn. I am in Santa Cruz, California, which is just south of the San Francisco Bay Area. It is currently 68 or so degrees. It's pretty rough life. I work with PBK as far as like doing growth and really teaching around digital marketing. But then in most of my time over here in Santa Cruz, I'm working on building a team with a business partner.
So you got Anchorage, Alaska covered. You got Santa Cruz, California covered. Throw into the chat where you are located in the world so that we know where to send referrals to. And again, if you're streaming on, if you're watching us on Facebook Live, throw us comments into the chat. We're trying to learn how all of these things work and play together. So help us get smarter as we go. We are.
Doug's
This
in
is
San Diego. That's a good
beautiful
market.
San Diego. Exactly. We got St. Louis. I know we got St. Louis in the house. So today's First Friday call is a little bit different. We're moving away from the things we normally cover, technology, marketing, real estate specific things to kind of personal performance. And Win the Morning, Win the Day is the outgrowth of a routine that I've been using for a little while, inspired by a couple of books that I read, and we'll get to the slides in a second. And it is all about creating happiness and positivity, number one. Number two, why happiness and positivity are good for your business. They're good business decisions. And then finally, if creating happiness and positivity is good for our business, how do we build a routine around it? How do we create some habits around it so that we're consciously filling our happiness bucket on a daily, weekly basis, and making it simply part of the new normal. So what I want you to leave with are those three things: that it matters, it's good for your business, and you can make it a habit. That would be my goal. Jason, anything you want to get out of today? Anything you've been through Win the Morning, Win the Day before? Anything you want to get out of today?
Yeah. Recently, though, so it's one of those things you always hear win the morning. And I think a lot of it, or if you're a bit like me, your brain goes to, oh, yeah, it means do your lead gen in the morning, right? Like that's cool. Like do your lead gen. Or there's the other end of it is, I think it might be Admiral McRaven.
Mm-hmm.
I think does the whole thing about make your bed in the morning.
Make your bed.
Because then it's like, then you've accomplished something. And so I always kind of went those mindsets with it of like, oh, that's easy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like just remember that. Molly Fletcher, I'll drop a link in the chat. Molly Fletcher, who was at Family Reunion. Yeah, Family Reunion, one of the guest speakers. She just interviewed Gary Keller on her podcast. And Gary started talking about winning the morning, and I kind of went the same way. Oh, I've heard this before. No, it was a whole different thing. And so I'll kind of interject some of the things that he said in that episode, and I'll also drop that podcast. It was a very, very good one. A lot of people recommended it and said, and then I listened to it. So I'll interject some of what I kind of learned through that, because it's now kind of one of my focuses right now is getting more into winning the morning, so that I can win the day, then you win the week, then you win the year.
Then you win the year. Yeah. And so part of what we'll get to is the role of gratitude in winning the morning. I am grateful to Jason. He doesn't know this yet, so this is a surprise and a perfect segue. I am grateful to Jason for reminding me to go listen to that interview, because it is amazing. It's a really good. I mean, we've heard Gary before, but that interview is really, really good. All right, I'm going to share a screen. We're going to jump right in. Win the morning, win the day. 5-step, 23-minute routine to increase positivity, happiness, and your influence over others. All right, so we'll go here and we'll go here. So this is win the morning, win the day. Now, why do I focus on happiness? Why is this part of my personal routine? The answer comes from a question Jason asked me earlier, which is, where do I live? I live in beautiful Anchorage, Alaska. That is a real photo on the shortest day of the year, about 15 miles south of my house, if I drove down the highway, that would be a pretty typical December 21st, the shortest day of the year. We have about 5.5 hours of sunshine. And if you're willing to play along, I would encourage you to stick your arm out in front of where you are, stick your arm straight out, add a nut, go one more fist on top of that. That's as high as the sun gets on the shortest day of the year. So we have 5.5 hours of sunshine that kind of goes like that. It's like the world is frowning at us every day. And so that is
All the
that
time.
always that's the reality. And I don't believe I suffer from like seasonal affected depression, but I do know that I'm affected by weather. Like my mood is affected by days like this. And so I began to read and try and understand what was happening to me personally. Why did I sort of feel down? And were there ways for me to start to feel better? So I dove into a lot of the literature around mood and happiness and positivity. And what I learned were those three things that I hope you leave with. Number one, there's a good business case to be made around happiness. And secondly, you can strategically build happiness into you can build a plan to increase happiness, and then you can make it part of your habits. And that came from the reality that I personally deal with, which is 5.5 hours of daylight on the shortest day of the year. So
I
that's
I
happiness.
used to
Yeah.
live I used to live up in Seattle,
Hmm.
and in Seattle, kind of famous for you have Starbucks, right?
Hmm.
But then you also have Seattle's Best,
Hmm.
started in Seattle. I want to say Pete's might have been
Eats.
started in Seattle, but I might be making that up.
Yep.
But why do you think they have so many coffee shops in Seattle? Right? Cloudy, gloomy, shorter days during the
Yep.
winter, right? Not the shortest days, but it's markedly shorter than just down here in California, just 12 hours down the coast. I mean, you had very short days. And so caffeine, like when you have the less vitamin D is what helps generate energy naturally.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
so how do you compensate for that? Is you throw in a bunch of caffeine, or you can do these other tactics as well. But it's like that's why they have so much coffee up there, or it's one theory of why so much of the coffee goes there, because it's not
Goes
like
there.
they're growing it there, they're just selling
No,
it there.
they're just selling it. Exactly. Yeah, it's artificial stimulation to get your morning routine. So you just saw the slide. So what I'm going to ask everybody to do is just take 30 seconds, just jot down right now what your morning routine looks like. What is your morning routine comprised of, right? If you think about the time the alarm goes off, specifically the time between the alarm goes off and you show up at work, what do you do? Take a few seconds to just write that down. And while folks are writing, Jason, I'm going to go to you. What does your morning routine generally look like?
I'm writing mine down. We're gonna
Good.
so if people think that we sat here and planned this out, no,
No,
because
no,
mine is not a good routine.
I love it. That's the
You
best.
wake up,
Yep.
some one way or another, you're waking up.
What time?
um I get up about 5:45.
Okay.
And so it's
Pretty
pretty
early.
natural. It's pretty natural at this point. Like
Yep.
it doesn't matter what day of the week or whether or not I have alarms. I have alarms set, but the alarm's not usually waking me up. Um, of course, I gotta get on Facebook and do some doom scrolling a bit, right? And I've always tried to like at least not check my email, but I do.
Yeah.
Typical thing: Facebook, Instagram, email. Um, we got a dog recently, and so we have a big property, but if I just let him out, he goes and plays. So I still take him out to walk,
Mhm.
so I got walk him, feed him, and then head down the hill. Or so I live up on a mountain, and so then
Yeah.
head into town to a coffee shop and load up on that caffeine I was talking about. So
Load up on the caffeine.
that's my first hour of the hour of every day, basically.
Got it. So in the chat, somebody else throw in what time they wake up. So Jason's 5:45.
About
Um,
5:45. Yeah.
that's just throw in chat what time most of your mornings wake up. Just sort of curious. 4:30, 4:45. Ugh.
Yeah.
Renee's,
Yeah.
yeah.
Renee's not happy about what time she gets up.
Yeah. And it's not surprising. Whenever I do win the morning, win the day, one of the unique things about realtors is that I think, generally speaking, and especially those who are in coaching or in a community like this one, um, are more prone to be earlier risers than a lot of folks, which I think is great. But okay, so everybody's kind of getting up relatively early. The we're going to go back here. There we go. So for most people, right, the morning routine is the same. You wake up at some time, let's call it, 5, 6, 7 in the morning, and you have some sort of breakfast, and you hop in the car, and you immediately get to work, right? We have a pattern that we follow in the morning already. The question is that pattern helping you? And more specifically, the way I would ask the question is to say, does your current morning routine contribute to, or does it steal from your happiness? I'm going to throw a little, whoops, it's not that one. Yeah. So I just threw a little poll over there, and it's just, I'm just curious, for those of you who are on the call with us live, just ask yourself, and then if you're willing to share, answer the poll. Does your current morning routine contribute to or steal from your happiness? Contributes, great. We got folks coming in. So there's no right or wrong answer, but it's worth asking the question. Does your morning routine make your world better or not? And be honest with yourself. That's the most important thing, is to be honest with yourself, because my goal for you is that your morning routine would contribute to your overall level of happiness, because happiness matters. Shawn Achor in the book, he's awesome. He was at Family Reunion or Mega Camp. What was it, Jason?
That
2 years
was
ago?
Mega Camp 2 years ago.
Mega Camp 2 years ago. Shawn Achor in the book, I was thrilled that he was on stage, because when I started doing my own sort of dig and research into happiness, he was one of the folks that I gravitated to the most. He makes the case very clearly that happiness, positivity matters. And there are 3 reasons why. The first one, and these are inspired by Happiness Advantage, but not exclusively from it. But the first reason why, and this comes straight out of the book, is that by raising the level of positivity in your brain, the happiness measure, for lack of a better word, your brain just works better. It's more efficient. It's more effective. The thoughts, the biochemical energy within your brain flows more freely when you have a general sense of positivity. So if part of our goal of business is to make sure that we're bringing our best to the table every day, presumably one of the things we want to bring to the table is a high functioning brain, right? Weird, right? We want to think well. Let's think better. Let's think better about the problems we have to solve, the building, repair, inspection. We have to negotiate the strategies for finding new leads. Let's bring our best selves to the table. We do that by increasing positivity. The second reason that positivity and happiness matter and are good for our business is that this comes from a study of 500 CEOs across multiple countries, multiple languages, cultures, ethnic backgrounds. Fortune 500 CEO study found that those who had a higher level of positivity, those who were happier, were more productive by about 30%. They led teams and businesses where sales were greater than folks in the same industry where the CEOs themselves were less happy. Happier CEOs had more sales. Their sales were 37% higher than the competition. And they themselves, as they were moving through their career on the path to becoming a CEO, were 40% more likely to receive a promotion. So number one, you're bringing a better brain to the table. Number two, you're going to increase productivity, you're going to increase sales, you're going to increase promotion, you're going to do better at work. Reason number two, why you might focus on happiness. Reason number three is that happiness then is also a contagion, right? And Shawn said this really nicely. You can literally flip a switch and then cause tremendous cultural shift in your organization simply by practicing positivity, right? And I think of this, Jason, as the no one wants to work with a jerk, right?
That's why I'm in my office alone. A thing too to like note about this, I dropped Shawn Achor's, so he has a few books, but I put The Happiness Advantage in the chat. Something to note about this though too is that it can feel very woo woo or rah rah, right? To just be like, just be happier, or like just focus on your happiness. But the way Shawn Achor does it is he's bringing science to this, right? And was the Fortune 500 study, was that out of his book, or do you know
that was part of one of the studies was referenced in his book? Yep.
So he's literally, his title is a happiness researcher, right? And right now I'm working on a master's in psychology, and there's a whole subset of psychology called positive psychology,
Positive
right?
psychology.
Like this is actual science that backs up there are things you can do, habits that you can create, and things that you can do every day that actually make you a more positive person. And on the outside, I think a lot of people would say, I'm a generally positive person, right?
Mhm.
But I've been coaching with you for several years now.
Yep.
I can be rather pessimistic. I can be rather not satirical. What is the other word? I don't know, negative, right?
Negative.
And so it's like I actually, I have a desire to work on the habits of being more positive.
Yep.
And it's something that you can actually train the neural pathways in your brain to become a different person, right? So
Correct.
just kind of interesting to me. That's science. It's not just like, oh, let's all, we have Mo Anderson a lot says, right?
Yeah.
Hug 7 people a day or else you get weird, right? That's how she
Correct.
always says it.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, that feels very woo woo rah rah,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
there's actual science somewhere out there to back something like that up. And that's what I think is interesting.
Absolutely.
I want
And
to see the data.
that's that positivity, that the word positivity comes out of that positive psychology influence, that it's not happiness can be glib. What we're really talking about is something measurable and concrete. Positivity and higher levels of positivity are good for your business. We can dig into the research more, but that's it. So how do you increase positivity? Perfect segue. Uh, this is the routine that I use, inspired by Achor and others, right? The question is, what do you do? You might do something like this. I'm not suggesting that this is the only path to positivity. No way, no how. I am suggesting that this is one path to positivity. And I think you will find that if you study all of the literature around positivity and happiness, that you will find very similar elements in every positivity practice. And these are 5 steps, 23 minutes each morning. And this is the routine that I follow. Now, to be clear, do I do this every day? No, I'm not. I would be lying to you if I said I'm 100%, I'm all in. I'm all in on the idea. And what I try and do is win 4 days out of 5, 5 days out of 7, 7 days out of 10. Because I know that when I win, and what I mean is when I do this routine more consistently, I feel like I am rewiring, Jason, as you said, those neural pathways. The first thing is gratitude. Every positivity routine includes some component of gratitude. And the easiest way to bring a gratitude component to the table is to write down 3 new things for which you're grateful. Now, I said new things, and I mean that specifically. Think about new things from day to day, but they don't have to be major.
Yeah, they'll have to be groundbreaking new.
Groundbreaking.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a better word. These are not groundbreaking new things for which you're grateful. You could be grateful for a great cup of coffee. You could be grateful that it's raining versus sun. You could be grateful that it's sunny versus raining. Ideally, it's things you're grateful for that you have some element of control over more often than not, because that also creates a sense of empowerment, but that's a slightly different
Yeah.
branch of
I want
psychology. But go
I
ahead.
want to add in one more piece here too. That, and this comes from Shawn Achor, is that it needs to be specific, right? So,
Right.
like, even right there, where you say, "I'm grateful for this cup of coffee," the challenge of creating the neuro pathway piece
Mhm.
is that you're scanning your brain looking for gratitude, right? And so it's kind of like
Mhm.
in bold, we always talk about the RAS, reticular activation system. When you go looking for something, you find it, right?
Yep.
Don't think about a red fire truck, you're thinking about a red fire truck, right?
Yeah.
So we go looking for things that we're grateful for, and it can be very easy to say, I'm grateful for, if you have kids, I'm grateful for my kids, I'm grateful for this cup of coffee, I'm grateful for my cat. But it's getting specific of saying why are you
Why?
grateful for that cat? You know what, because when that cat comes over, she's just so dang cute, and I pet her and she purrs,
Mhm.
and it just makes me happy. Boom, I've now created the path from thinking about my cat to the happiness.
To the
You think
happiness.
about the cup of coffee. I'm grateful for this cup of coffee because I was feeling like a real jerk. And then this one right here had a triple shot in it. And it honestly, it just helped. Right.
That's right.
And it
Yeah.
creates that specificity, creates the neuro pathway that we're looking for. So
Yeah.
just something to keep in mind there, that be a little bit more specific in there, and you're going to see more results.
And you used a really interesting and I think important word, and that's scan, right?
It's
When you also
scanning for it.
scan your experiences, you scan the world, you scan where you are, you begin to you get attuned to looking for those things that generate gratitude. You do kind of a deep, kind of like mental debrief, and you scan it. So the routine that I use, and it's literally, let me stretch my arm here. It's right here. Let's grab a piece of paper underneath it. I use the 5 minute journal.
I
This is
was
just
gonna
the
reference a
form.
5-minute journal.
There we go. That's the form in which I write down those three things that I'm grateful for. That takes about 2 minutes, and the lesson is your attitude matters. So again, 5 step routine. That's step number one, gratitude. Step number two is to journal one positive experience from work in the last 24 hours. So this is taking what we just did with the gratitude piece, but moving it one step further and into a specific area. Again, positivity. This is relating positivity to good business. Let's look for a positive work experience in the last 24 hours and write it down. Also, 2 minutes. Jason, anything on that?
In coaching, what do we always start a new coaching session with?
My calls?
I would say it's even more than your calls, but yes, let's say your calls. Right. What went well this week?
What went well?
What
Tell me
win
something
did you
good.
have? Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, tell me something good. The first KW office I joined, or first real estate office I joined, the team leader would start every team meeting with that. Tell me something good.
Mhm.
Right? You got to sing a little song. Uh, and it's that you're and this is breaking it down to the last 24 hours because we're
Right.
trying to build a daily habit out of it. And so, yeah,
Yep.
no, it makes sense. I dropped the 5-minute journal link in there. It's something that, it's $25. You don't
Mhm.
necessarily need it. You can literally just, I have a random pad of paper here. You could even do that. But
Mhm.
the 5-minute journal will also give you some prompts, because it's not always easy to come up with some of these things, right? Especially if you're doing it first thing
Mhm.
in the morning, it might be difficult to get those brain juices going. And tools like 5-minute journal, or there's some others, will help give you the prompts, might make it a little bit easier to get into it.
Absolutely. I think that's it's tools. It's tools, not a crutch. It is a
Right.
tool to
Yeah.
do the thing that matters. I love that. The third step in our 23-minute routine is 15 minutes of cardio. And what you're training yourself here is that your behavior matters. And when I say cardio, I don't mean this is 15 minutes where you're getting ready for the marathon or 15 minutes where you're training for the bike ride. This is just 15 minutes to get your body moving, to get your heart rate up, go for it, walk the dog, go, put tunes in the iPod and do the random dance break across the kitchen. I do that more often than I'd care to admit. But the point is to get your body moving, because your behavior matters. When you create a different physical state, you are creating endorphins. You're releasing chemicals and hormones that your body says, hey, that's pretty good. I like that. I feel I'm more positive about it. So a physical component is really valuable in a positivity and happiness routine. It's not just what happens in the 5.5-inch space between our ears. It is actually what we do to move our body. The fourth step in our 5-step routine is what I call just breathe. And this is some form of meditation, some form of quiet, some form of training the muscle of your mind around the idea of focus. And that's the message, right? The lesson is your focus matters. And the fifth step, Jason, anything on either of those two, by the way?
Yeah,
Cardio,
I'm glad you stopped, because I was going to drop. I'm just dropping links like crazy today. And it's so funny. Like, I don't know if people will believe us. We did not plan this.
We did not plan this.
I kind of thought we were going to go a whole different angle of things, but this is great because I literally just did a presentation for my master's last week about this exact topic. So I have all these links and everything ready because I had to use it in that. So let's see. There is a podcast, if you're interested in step number 3, about learning more about why physical activity works or why you need to be in sunshine in the morning. There's Andrew Huberman is a researcher up at Stanford, and he has a podcast called the Huberman Lab. That is this link right here. A whole bunch of podcast episodes. You'd have to dig through to find ones. He's got ones on, he mainly studies sleep and awakeness, basically, like the relationship between them. I check that out. But then there's this other book. Have you ever read Breath by James Nestor?
That is an amazing book.
This is an amazing like I would literally call this groundbreaking book because nobody else was talking about it, right? Yeah. And it talks about how oxygen passing through your nose, this sounds super nerdy, but the book is very easy to read. It basically talks about how oxygen passing through your nose changes everything. It changes how your nose is shaped, which then changes, or like the foods you eat over time, like we're talking about generations, right? Or evolution. But how our mouths have become smaller because we've been eating softer food, and then that changed how much we're breathing incorrectly. And Andrew Huberman also talks about that a lot. But those are two very good resources to learn more about step 3 or step 4.
Love it. Yeah, truly unplanned. So this is perfect. This is great. This is when the things you talk about show up in real life, and you begin to connect the dots. This is not just making it up. It feels real. The fifth step is to express gratitude to someone else, specifically right there in the morning via text or email, again in about 2 minutes long. And this is going back to the gratitude piece, but it's also combining gratitude with interpersonal relationships, because we know, we're smarter together. The human being is, generally speaking, a social animal. Even if you recharge your batteries alone, I know I do. I know many folks probably watching this webinar share the same feeling, like you'd like to recharge your batteries alone, but we're still the human being is still a social animal, and our leadership and our connections matter, especially if you're leading or connected to a team, a company, a business. The people in your world want to know where they fit and how they fit, and want to confirm that they're important, right? No one likes the feeling of being voted off the island. That's why that Survivor show was such a profoundly powerful concept, because it went to the simple fear that we all have, that somebody's going to vote us off the
Have
island.
Have you ever watched Alone on Netflix? It's
I have
like,
watched Alone.
right,
Yeah,
because that one's Alaska based, right? Alaska,
correct.
or I think may they also go through Canada,
Yeah.
which someone said they were from Canada in here. I think it was Carmen, maybe. I don't know. Nope. Yep, maybe. Someone said they're from Canada. But anyways, they, like the thing that gets the people is being alone.
Being alone.
It's not the cold. I mean, the first season someone almost had a heart attack, but like it's being alone. That's why the show is called Alone.
Yeah.
It's that being alone, not having the community, that ends up like destroying their brain the fastest. What's interesting though, with kind of going back to when Shawn Achor wrote a lot of this, is he says this is actually maybe the most powerful one you can do, right? That
Yeah.
you're sending gratitude to someone else via text or email. And so that way you don't have to call them. It's just you're dropping them a quick note just to say, hey, I appreciate you because of ABC, XYZ. And the reason he says this one's so powerful is because, like, one, you send it to them, and they kind of say there's no such thing as a selfless act. If I
Mm-hmm.
send you a message to say, hey, I'm grateful for you, well, I just feel good because I sent that,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then that also made you feel good,
Mm-hmm.
because and so I feel good because I know I probably made you feel good. It's almost egotistical,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, he will so appreciate this
He
message
will
I'm sending
appreciate
him,
this. Yeah.
right? And so then it's like, well, I feel good, you feel good. But then it becomes real powerful, because then you might reciprocate back and say, thanks so much.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you say you appreciate me, maybe you just say thank you. But he said, I forget, I think he used a percentage in the book to say, when you do this, so many percent ends up coming back with more gratitude at you. And so then it's like the snowball of gratitude,
Circle.
right? And
Mm-hmm.
so
And
he
when
says that can be a very powerful one because of that.
and the likelihood then that person who, having received gratitude, shares it with a third person goes up, right? That's that contagion effect within the organization. One way in which the contagion effect spills out: when you express gratitude within the organization, they will find other people within the organization to be grateful for, and suddenly you've increased positivity across a community that's influential, specifically to your livelihood, your business, namely the people that are on your team, the people that you work with. Yeah. I'm going to just pause right here and just say, in the chat, throw in any questions. Does anybody have any questions, comments about the routine itself? Because now we're going to get to why it's important to do it in the morning and how we build a habit around it. But if you've got any questions, put them in the chat. Otherwise, we're going to keep going with this, which is how we create a habit around it. So
Another
we've
book.
said another book, Happiness Matters. It's good for your business. We got a routine. Now, how to create a habit around it. The primary book that I used as that influenced me was Atomic Habits by James Clear. And the question then is, how do we create happiness as a habit in our lives? The trick is to build what's called a habit stack. And a habit stack, simply put, is the idea of adding one new routine on the back of something else you already have habituated, a behavior you already do automatically. So there are three things to think about. Number one, it's got to be easy. If it's too complicated, you can't put a complicated thing on the back of a simple thing. Take a simple behavioral change, put it on the back of another simple behavioral change you've already got, and it will be easier to create a habit, because you're eliminating temptations. You're going to prepare in advance. And my other piece of advice is, don't care about what you don't care about. In other words, focus on what matters and eliminate the distractions. So, parent a new habit with an old habit. Look for pre-existing routines. and then reward the completing the new behavior at the end. Okay. Now, threw a lot at you. Let me give you an example. Habit stack kind of looks like this. You might have a habit around brushing your teeth. Many people brush their teeth in the morning, right? So after brushing your teeth, I'll exercise. I'm going to add that 15 minutes of exercise component into my morning routine. After brushing my teeth, I'm going to get 15 minutes of exercise. After I exercise, I'm going to drink a glass of water. After I drink the glass of water, I'm going to make morning coffee. Now, the second part of the happiness routine, while the coffee brews, I'm going to meditate. I'm going to breathe, just breathe for 4 minutes. The reason I use 4 minutes, and this is absolutely part of my routine almost 7 days a week, is because my wife and I, we make coffee in a French press, right? So you put the water in a little carafe and then you let it sit there. We've learned that 4 minutes is the way the coffee tastes the best. So I've created a habit stack around something I'm already going to do, make coffee for my wife and I used that behavior to create a habit around daily meditation. Just a few minutes of focused time. While the coffee brews, I meditate quietly for 4 minutes. Jason, does that make sense? Anything to add to the habit stack idea?
There's not a lot to add to this one.
No.
I might say too that sometimes even though these are very small, simple things, that maybe it's a lot if you're doing none of them at all. So like maybe let's start with brushing our teeth, right? But let's say, okay, we've all accomplished that. That's cool. Pick the next one in the list, right? Like once you come up with maybe if you came up with your own ideal, okay, this would be my perfect morning. Don't think you have to do all of them today, right?
Correct.
Because that's a lot of different habits to build. And so in Atomic Habits, he talks about the idea of, let's say you want to go to the gym because you want to be in better shape, right? And let's say you have like a weight reduction related goal for going there. And if you're the type of person that doesn't go to the gym yet and you don't, that can be a big barrier to get there. He says, go to the gym and leave. All right.
And
like
leave.
Go to the gym,
I love
go
that.
to the gym and sit down. And like our gym has and a lot of these gyms are starting to do this now. They have like big lobbies or game rooms and stuff like that. It's like, just go there and sit down, read a book. Like you don't even have to work out. But if you start going daily, if your habit is to go daily and you start going to the gym daily, it makes it a lot easier to be like, well, now I'm going to go on that treadmill. Now I'm going to lift these weights. Now I'm going to do this thing. So if your thing is, I want to nail this perfect morning, and the first thing you can do in that is get up and go. Don't even worry about going outside and doing cardio. Just go outside and go for a walk. Going for a walk is real easy in the morning. I mean, it's hard, but it's also easy. So go for that walk, throw in the podcast, and come on back, then get that habit, then worry about the cardio, then worry about the coffee, then worry about the stack.
Yeah. You might not go from 0 to 23 minutes like that. It really does take no more than 23 minutes to do all 5 activities, but you might have to build them 2-minute increments at a time. And that's great. Do one, then do the next, then do the next. Another example, go for the walk. While on the walk, I'll listen to the podcast. After the podcast, I'm going to get 15 minutes, or I'm going to do some push-ups, right? So now I'm getting my 15 minutes of cardio in. Then I typically have breakfast. So we're stacking, right? You might have breakfast. You might refuel after you wake up. Okay, while eating breakfast, send your text messages. Express your gratitude while you're doing that thing. Maybe the only thing you do right now that's habituated is you get coffee, rather than hop onto the socials while you get coffee. Send a gratitude message first. Shoot the email, shoot the text, use Facebook as the tool, as the lever to build your habit stack. Yeah. Perfect. Now, I'm going to challenge you all to build your own habit stack. Just take 15 seconds and write down one thing you do habitually. And when you're done, throw that in the chat.
Facebook.
And Facebook. Okay. We'll use Jason. We'll use you as an example. You have Facebook. Now I'm going to challenge you. If we were to look at those 5 steps in the 23-minute routine, those 5 modules, what is one of those things that you could stack onto a Facebook habit that you already have to increase positivity on a daily basis?
Okay. So I was
All right.
going to say get rid of Facebook, but
Oh, well,
okay,
you
so
might
like
keep
let's
it.
say, yeah, exactly. Well, maybe I should reduce my time, but that's a different topic. Okay,
Right.
so if we want to attach a habit to it, it would be very easy for me to comment on someone's post something positive, right?
Love it.
Or send someone a message, right? And so we often talk about in KW speak DTD2, doing the database too, right? Where you could actually tie your Facebook time to, hey, if I'm going to be on Facebook anyways, I'm going to go find someone I had to contact this week anyways, because they're on my list of my sphere, keep in touch with, and go shoot them a message or comment on a post of theirs, something positive.
Love it. Love it. Yeah, something you already do.
Something today. Look at that.
There, accidentally, we're gonna accidentally stumble into a 23-minute routine. Take something you already do, weld something onto the back of it, and now you've got part of your positivity routine baked in. So write down one thing that you do. Think about one habit. Attach the two together. Let's build your own habit stack. Now, again, write down what you do, layer that with a new thing, and then ideally add the reward. When I send one piece of gratitude, when I DM, when I send that when I like or comment on somebody else's post, what will you get? How will you reward yourself? Positive reminder of having done that thing. That's the final component of building a powerful stack. Now, we're not going to spend too much more time on this, but this is a reminder of the third component that mornings matter. So now we've got the happiness matters, habits matter. Why must we do it in the morning? The 2 books that I found most influential or kept thinking about coming back to, Hal Elrod's The Miracle Morning and Gary and Jay's The One Thing. And I hear this a lot, especially when I do this when we have this conversation in a big room. Inevitably, somebody will stick their hand up in the back and say, but I'm not a morning person. Does it have to be in the morning? Could I do this later in the afternoon? Can I do this 23 minutes over lunchtime? That works better for me. And the answer is, while I understand that you might not be a morning person, yes, mornings matter, but for different reasons than you think. And again, we did not plan this, but Jason, what you said is absolutely key. It's not because of lead generation. While you might find time in the morning or be more excited, be more positive, be more ready to lead generate in the morning, this morning routine matters not because specifically of what it does for lead generation. It matters that you do it in the morning for these 3 reasons. Number 1 is that it builds energy, literal physical energy that you will fuel, that you will burn throughout the rest of the day. The artificial energy, Jason already mentioned, is caffeine. Yeah. And I like caffeine. I like coffee. I already admit it. I drink as much coffee as the next guy. But positivity provides a similar biochemical fuel that we can use later in the day. Secondly, it creates a pattern of success, a habit stack, if you will, of success. This is the William McRaven idea that when you do one thing in the morning, even if it is simple as making your bed, you're creating a pattern of success that becomes a habit that gets carried through the rest of the day, the week, the month, and the year. And the third thing, Gary is the person who I think most crystallized for me this idea, is that winning the morning is a stress reduction tool. Because when you win the morning, when you do in the morning your most important, most valuable thing, the rest of the day can fall apart.
Mhm.
And it literally doesn't matter because you've already won. Think of it this way. If your shoes come unlaced after you've crossed the finish line, it has no impact on your race.
Mhm. That's a great metaphor.
Thank you. Thank you. Just made that one up, actually. We'll save that
I
one.
love
That's
it.
pretty good.
I'm gonna write
Yeah.
that one down.
Right? It doesn't affect it. But if your shoes come undone in the middle of your race, it can. Not say it will, but it can. But at the very least, you're going to be thinking about where your shoelaces are because your foot's going to be flopping around. So by winning the morning, you eliminate the possibility of the thing that will go haywire. And we are in real estate. This is a business where things go haywire all the time. We eliminate the possibility of that impacting our day because we've accomplished our most important task. Gary has on his desk a little placard on a brass music stand that says, and he writes out, and if he loses the piece of paper, he writes it again. He keeps a Sharpie marker there for the purpose. Until my number one priority is complete, everything else is just a distraction. The point
I
of it
think it
being
actually says until my one thing is complete, but that's okay.
until my one thing is done, exactly. Yeah. Everything else is just a distraction. And that's a stress reduction tool. So the more clear you can be about what your one thing is, get it done in the morning, and then let the day happen. Easier it is to wake up and be positive, reduce stress the next day.
There's a Netflix did a newer documentary about Conor McGregor, the UFC fighter, right?
Okay.
And he's a very polarizing personality. We'll put it that way.
Yeah.
Some people love him, some people hate him. But in the new documentary, I want to say it's like 8 parts long, 6 parts long, something like that. And maybe it's a bit of a spoiler, but it was news, so it's fine. In the first episode, it's his big comeback, or no, the first episode, he goes into this big fight. He was super cocky and he loses. He loses a fight he wasn't supposed to lose. And his attitude about it was about winning, though. And he's like, he got off track. He got too caught up in the whole thing. He got off of his habits. And his habits, he knows that it's not about winning the fight, it's about winning all the micro fights along the way. You
Yeah.
know, did I nail my diet today? I won the fight. Did
Mhm.
I, everything got in the way, but I still did my workout. I won the fight. And
Mhm.
everything he talks about, I won the fight, I won the fight, I won the fight. And when you're winning more fights than losing more fights, you're going to
Mhm.
win the big fight. And so
You're
then
with the
we
big
can
fish.
translate that into this, that it's our little habits. Did I wake up and do my gratitude? I won the fight. Did
Mhm.
I do my lead generation, even though this isn't about lead generation? But did I nail my contacts this week? Great, I won the
Mhm.
fight, right? And
Mhm.
so it's all these little wins that add up into one big win. And so that's what I thought was interesting about that success early. Get those
Yeah.
little successes, then you've already won for the whole day,
You've won the
right? You've
day.
already you've
Yeah.
already won the whole day. So it
Yep.
kind of doesn't matter what happens next.
I love that. Yeah, I love that. If you and it's the I think Sun Tzu, right, in the Art of War talks about the idea that the battle is won before the combatants enter the field because
Mhm.
of
Yeah.
all of those other things, right? It's the John Wooden. I don't know shoe metaphors here all today, but John Wooden, we're going to tie our shoes a certain way because the way
Yeah.
we do it, because we're going to practice a certain way. This is the way we wear our socks because those are all the little micro battles that, when cumulatively won, will cause us to win the game. Yeah. Love it. That is win the morning, win the day. So the challenge for you, for everybody, on this webinar, or if you're watching the recording, is to number one, embrace a positivity routine. Number two, build your routine. You can use this 23-minute routine, these 5 steps, something similar, to build a routine, have a plan for increasing positivity. Next, to build some habit stacks so that it's easier to execute that plan, to complete that plan day after day, and then to do it in the morning. That's win the morning, win the day. Throw in the chat any comments, any questions. Jason, what do you got?
Yeah. I was going to say, if you want to hear Gary's morning routine, Gary Keller's morning routine, it's in that podcast I dropped at the beginning of this chat. So with Molly Fletcher, or if you don't have the link, just go look up Molly Fletcher podcast with Gary Keller. And he talks about exactly his routine down to, I wake up at this time. He has this, granted, we don't all have personal trainers that come to us every day because we have our own gym. He does. That's cool. But he talks about what's my breakfast. Like he talks about exactly what his breakfast is, what he does. And he goes through till like probably 8 or 9 a.m. of saying, this is exactly what I do. And to him, health is incredibly important. So a lot of it's centered around health because he wants to be like Jack LaLanne. Correct. So it was a really good episode that kind of opened my eyes to that. Something someone might end up saying at some point when we were talking about breakfast or those things is, and I just find this interesting because, again, I learned it through CEO Summit last year. A lot of people talk about intermittent fasting. Oh, yeah. Well, I don't do breakfast. I do intermittent fasting. Dr. Lane Norton was one of the guest speakers at the CEO Summit at Family Reunion last year or this year. And he just posted the other day on Facebook something about the studies of intermittent fasting. And it's like, it doesn't necessarily matter. If it matters to you and it's successful for you, then that's what matters. Right. And so don't think like, oh, well, they eat breakfast, so I have to eat breakfast, or this doesn't work for me. You get to customize your own stack, I think is what all this comes down to.
Correct. Yeah, your happiness routine, your positivity routine should include some degree of gratitude, some degree of exercise, some degree of contemplation, some degree of outreach, to others, to other people. What your particular morning routine will look like and the stacks you build around it, that will vary, and that is just fine. We will be giving away periodically copies of the 5-Minute Journal. By the way, no, they're not paying me for that. I'm not getting anything from them. I just buy them by the box. So if anybody wants one, keep your eyes open for 5-Minute Journal giveaways attached probably to the recording of this webinar. Anything else we need to talk about, Jason, before we let everybody go?
That was pretty, like I said, we didn't, I was kind of along for the ride on this one. We hit so many topics. So
we did. We hit a big one. I think good. All right. First Friday in September. If you're watching the recording, this might be too late, but in September 2023, we're going to be with the folks from KW Wealth. So next month, we're going to move from mindset and motivation to money management, and investing with the Wealth folks. Of course, you can find us on Facebook at Cloud Coaching, on YouTube, Jason LaFlynn, Philip
Jason LaFlynn on everything.
On all the socials. And we've got a couple of boot camps launching here in the next month, both Facebook boot camp, database boot camp, AI boot camp. Keep an eye out for those as well.
Cool.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Jason. We'll talk soon.
All right. Have a great day.
See ya. Bye.